So this is what if this is what if My Hero Academia was being human, or was supernatural. So basically, let's just clear some stuff up I didn't really clear up in part one. Basically, other supernatural beings are a thing in this universe, like ogres and elves and stuff like that, and centaurs and stuff like that. Other creatures that aren't vampires and werewolves and warlocks and witches and slimes. So yeah. So basically, it's just that I focus on werewolves and vampires more because and quirk people because they're the most popular species on the Earth on the planet Earth, or in the supernatural society, or the society itself. So basically, I last left off on kind of a slash cliffhanger. Now Dobby is kind of the main villain of this what if. Basically, Dobby's gonna be pretty much finding out a way to try to torment everybody, or our main cast of characters, Kirishima, and also guys, since Deku signed up for UA, he's gonna go to UA. Now, part one was about 1 hour long, and I'm gonna try my hardest, probably my best, but try to make this at least an hour long. Now, I probably won't do that. Probably like 55 minutes, maybe less, but yeah. So basically, guys, let's get started. Now, basically, Deku will be still a slime, and I last left off for Deku told Bakugo that I don't care for humanity and stuff like that. So pretty much, Deku left Bakugo, and Bakugo was super angry at this. Basically, Bakugo didn't know that Deku, did have the power to kill him and all other stuff. Now let's switch back to Deku, Kirishima, and everybody else. Now basically, if you don't remember, Kirishima's a werewolf, Bakugo's a vampire, Dobby's a vampire, what was it? And, what was it? What was it? I think it was Reza. I actually do not remember her name. The love interest for Deku. Basically, she, basically kind of the same type of character as in the redhead girl from DxD. I do not remember her name because I haven't watched the anime in years. So I don't know. I don't know her name. I think it's Reza or Resin, but I'm just gonna call her Rez for now, for short, or I don't know. I'm just gonna call her Rez. So basically, we switch back to the house, Dobby's old house, where Dobby pretty much scattered that house because Reza and Deku and pretty much they just live there now. It's a cabin in the forest, about like half an hour away from Japan. And basically, no, it's like about 55 minutes away from Japan. Or out of the, pretty much, no, like, out of the city of Japan. Yeah, so basically, Deku goes back to the mansion and back to the cabin and goes to sleep with Rez. Now they wake up the next day and they get ready for UA. Yeah, they get ready for UA and they pretty much take a bus to get to UA, and Deku and Rez go into UA. But basically, they pretty much say this is our first day here and let's make the best of it. Basically, Deku is still trying to make the best of it. Since Deku is slightly kind of immortal, Deku is basically just going to wing with it, because I actually forgot the motivation for Deku to come here, but I'm pretty sure it was for Deku just to try to prove Tabi wrong, or just to try to merge with pretty much, or try to find another slime, or something like that. There's a random reason. Basically, Deku and Rez actually get assigned into Class 1A, and since Rez and Deku get, pretty much Rez replaces Mineta, so Mineta is expelled. He never gets into UA, because, I don't even understand how he got into UA, because, like, look at him, bro. He's, like, 2 feet tall. He's, like, a foot tall, bro. Like, this man's is so short. So, basically, Deku walks in there, and if you don't remember Deku's look, he looks like this. He looked the same, just a little bit more, he looks the same, but his, body's more perfected, and also he is a little bit taller, about as tall as pretty much about like a little like an inch taller than Bakugo, and basically Deku also has has aqua like hair and green eyes or yellow eyes. So basically Deku sits down and pretty much Azawa in his sleeping bag wakes up after the rest of the class, starts talking. Now Deku sees Kirishima, Bakugo, and a couple other students walk into class. And basically, guys, let's go on a quick rundown and everybody in class 1A and what, they are and what, creatures they are. Now, guys, let's get into it. Now, basically, Yoja, Omena, Wamina, the, belly button laser guy. Basically, he's still gonna be a quirk person, because I don't want to change his character too much. Now, for Mina, she's still gonna be a quirk person. Sue is still gonna be a quirk person. Bucko is a vampire. Invisible Girl, she is going to be, let's say, she's still gonna be a quirk person. And, Ida, still gonna be a quirk person. And Jiro is going to be still gonna have a quirk. Denki is going to be a warlock, actually, that his family just, pretty much, warlocks, some warlocks are, like, bound to one type of magic, and Denki was one type of magic. Warlocks, he can only use electric magic. Him using other type of magic, like blood magic, location magic, or any type of other magic, it can put a huge toll on his body, and maybe even kill him. So, it's very, very rare for a warlock like Denki to use any type of magic other than the magic they're assigned to from birth or from their family line. Now, Denki's magic is mainly focused on pretty much electric magic, but the only downfall is that electric magic that he uses is very strong, but also it takes away some brain cells like his quirk. It works like his quirk, but it's 10 times stronger than his original quirk. Kirishima, he's a werewolf. And Koda, he's still going to be a quirk person. Azuku, Slime, Mineta, these are really important because, he's not in the class 1A. Ojiro, and I think it was the tail quirk guy. He's still going to be a quirk. Actually, scratch that. He is going to be let's say, you know what? Scratch it. He's just gonna be a normal quirk person. Now, Sota, the Shikarush. Now I'm gonna be saying that he is still going to be. No, he's not gonna be a quirk person. He's actually going to be a ogre. So basically, he's gonna look the same. He'll just have green eyes, and he'll have he's just gonna be an ogre. And he's just going to have the same strength as Sugar Rush because he's an ogre. Ogres are pretty strong. They have superhuman strength. Now, for Zero, same. And Shozo, I don't know his Duplo Arms, still going to be a quirk person. Todoroki, still going to be a quirk person. Tokiyami, still going to be a quirk person. And Ochaku, she's going to be a witch. She's just going to be specialized of gravity magic and telekinesis. And for Momo, she's just going to be she's going to be a witch too. She'll be able to, her witch powers, she's a witch and a quirk user, so she still has the same quirk as in canon, but she can also specializes in blood magic, like bringing people back from the dead, or like healing people, or like cursing people, stuff like that. So basically, that's the whole class 1A and what they are, and nothing really changed that much. The only people that changed were Sugar Rush, Deku, Bakugo, Kirishima, Denki, and Momo, Ochaku, and that's basically it. So guys, let's switch back to the story. Now basically, Deku goes into class 1A, and pretty much Azawa explains to the class that they're going to pretty much, they're going to quirk assessments and blah blah blah. Pretty much getting them out of the room and getting them into their sports clothes. Deku gets into his sports outfit. Basically, him getting ready. Now, basically, he looks around, and basically, Azawa hands him the ball because Deku got the highest score in the entry exams. Deku grabs it, and he chucks it without any thought, and it goes like out of the atmosphere and just stops, and then falls back down. So basically, Azawa gives him a pretty good score. He gets a really good score, and Deku for the long jump. We skip to the long jump. I actually stopped that because some people are different. Their scores are different. Now, for Sugar Rush, she gets the same score like in Canon, and for Ochaku, she still uses she uses gravity magic, and for pretty much Momo, she does the same thing. Now, for Bakugo, since he's a vampire, he does throw it a little bit farther than he did originally, and he gets about the same score, but about 2 times higher than his original one. And for Kirishima, same score like in Canon, but you know what? About the same score as, about, let's say 50 miles. 50 miles up into the sky. Nearly about, let's say he throws the equivalent of two football fields pretty much, linked up together. So yeah, he threw that far. Now for everybody else gets the same score. Now for the long jump, everybody passes it. Some people fail, but just the same result. Now for the what was it? Grip test strength. I mean the race. Basically, what was it? Bakugo aces it. The deck is pretty fast, but he's not super speed fast because he's still a slime. So basically, Bakugo passes it because he's a vampire and he has superhuman speed. Now, basically for the grip test strength, Deku gets the highest score because superhuman strength and all that other stuff. And basically, he does have werewolf and vampire strength combined. He's kind of like a hybrid type thing, because he is able to, because he did absorb the DNA of Dobby, and also absorb the DNA of a werewolf. So he does have the same strength as both species. And basically, Deku goes back to what was it? Deku goes back to what was it? Deku goes sorry, I'm getting kind of off brand now. Basically, Deku and their students get the same score, but like some of them get higher scores because they got higher, scores. They get higher grades because they got higher scores, and basically all of them pass. Everybody passes, and basically, oh man, I forgot about Rez. Basically, she just gets A+ in each category, and basically for everybody could handle their syllabus, and pretty much everybody's sent home. Pretty much Azawa acting the same type of way, and basically Azawa in this world actually being a vampire, and he actually is the strongest vampire that can use compulsion. He's not the strongest vampire, but he's the vampire that can use compulsion on such a level that he doesn't even have to speak. He just looks into somebody's eyes or towards them, and his presence can be beamed, or his compulsion can be beamed into a quirk type of thing. So basically, he can pretty much compulsion anybody, even other vampires or other supernaturals, to not use their abilities or not to use their quirks. So he's that powerful. Now basically, Azawa sends everybody back home, and basically Azawa is actually related to Bakugo, because Azawa is what was it? Dracula's third line. So basically, Dracula had like 3 different children. So basically, technically, what was it? Basically, technically, Zawa is pretty much Bakugo's older, and I mean, Azawa's like 300 years old. Basically, Azawa's like about, he's older than Bakugo. He's like Bakugo's older cousin. So basically, everybody is sent back home with their syllabus, and Deku goes back home with Urias. Basically, they go back home, and they walk in the house, lock it, and pretty much go their day. Now, basically, Deku pretty much gets a phone call, and Deku takes his phone, pretty much still being used to stuff like this, but knowing his number and actually having a phone, because Deku does know a lot about this world and the society now, because he absorbed a lot of knowledge and stuff from the werewolf DNA and also from Dobby's DNA, because Dobby lived on his own for a long time and he does know a lot about the world. Basically, Deku gets called by Kirishima, and Kirishima asks him over to for a party. Like, Kirishima doesn't think Deku's gonna come, but he just calls him just because he wants to allow Deku in. Now, Deku was about to decline this because it's a school night, but Deku remembers that it doesn't really matter anymore because I don't really care for what humans think, because most of the people in UA are still quirk people and they're still technically labeled as humans. So basically, Deku goes to the party and pretty much hangs out with Kirishima for about, let's say, for about 3 hours, maybe about like 3 hours and 55 minutes. So basically, they go out, and they pretty much go take a party at Kirishima's house, and they go pretty much wild until Kirishima pretty much gets a phone call from somebody that he doesn't know. He answers it, unknowing that it was Dobby. Now, basically, Dobby answers, and Kirishima automatically remembers that voice, because he heard that voice after he was completely, jumped by Dobby. Now, basically, Kirishima says, "Where are you?" And Dobby chuckles and says, "You really need to be a little bit more cautious at who you pick the phone up for." Basically, Dobby says, "Look to your left," and Kirishima looks out of the window, pretty much seeing Dobby, and across the street in a car. And now, basically, Kirishima and Deku and the rest of his friends, pretty much Kirishima, Deku, and Bakugo, and basically a couple other students like Sugar Rush and Sugar Rush and Todoroki were there. Todoroki mainly just came there because Todoroki did know Kirishima, because Kirishima did know about Todoroki, so they were friends. So basically, they're pretty much, Todoroki walks over to Kirishima because Kirishima has a scared, is like shaking in his boots right now, like his face is like he just saw a ghost. Pretty much, Todoroki says, "Are you okay?" And Kirishima says, I'm fine." Pretty much, Dobby says it again, saying that you're not getting out of this party, or you're not going home alive tonight. Pretty much hanging up the phone, and Kirishima immediately telling the rest of pretty much his group of friends about what he heard. Now, Todoroki does know about his brother, but he doesn't know that he's Dobby. Pretty much, he just tells him that someone is trying to kill him tonight. And pretty much he tells, Bakugo and Deku about how Dobby is following him. But basically, Deku gets angry and pretty much nods at Bakugo, them trying to put their differences aside, because Bakugo was still, angry at Deku. But pretty much they cautiously run out of the bar and get into the car, pretty much driving off. And basically, they try to get to the house, or Kirishima's house, or they get to the cabin so they can all, party over there, or sleep over, because they don't want to separate each other, because their Dobby would just try to, take down Kirishima in his own house, because Dobby has been invited. So basically, they go to the cabin, but they get stopped by Todoroki. Pretty much Todoroki saying, "Why not just go to my house? Since a vampire is after you, a vampire hasn't been invited in our house." And basically, they're not really taking it in count, because, Dobby has lived there in, Todoroki's house. So it's not really a big thing. Dobby's been invited. And, yeah, so basically, Dobby just follows them on tree to tree, not actually taking a car because he doesn't want to make any uncalled for noise. So basically, and also he's covered himself in wolfsbane. If you don't know, wolfsbane pretty much eliminates the sense that a werewolf can sense you. So basically, Deku looks around trying to find out where Dobby is. He tries to use some magic that he learned from Riaz. They try to use some sensing magic, but he can't get anything, because wolfsbane also eliminates the sense that magic can't find you. So basically, Deku looks at the window trying to look for something, but he hears some sort of noise, and he looks behind himself, seeing that Dobby has landed on the car. Dobby pulls Deku out of the car and jumps off the car, leaving the rest of the guys pretty much driving off. Deku and Dobby start fighting for about the same to them for hours on end, but it's only been about 50 minutes. They start pretty much both of them are kind of beaten up. Deku isn't really beaten up, but his clothes are ripped up and stuff. Deku goes for punches and punches, but Deku eventually dodges more and more, basically about to bite Dobby with his, werewolf abilities or his werewolf bite. Pretty much Dobby dodging it, grabbing grabbing Deku by the head and throwing him through a window into a nearby building. Pretty much Deku looks around, seeing that the building was pretty much abandoned. Pretty much him fighting in the building, them throwing each other through walls and stuff, and pretty much punching each other. Deku trying to bite Dobby, but Dobby dodging each time. Pretty much Dobby dodging more and more. Eventually, almost tiring out Deku, but since Deku's a slime, doesn't really have any type of he doesn't really need to get tired. So basically, Deku starts fighting more and more, but eventually he gets tuckered out. Not really tuckered out, he gets more disoriented because Dobby has used something in the whole fight. Something that slimes can't comprehend, and that pretty much slimes are weak to. All type of slimes. Doesn't matter how old they are. Pretty much this herb, I can't name it, but basically this herb basically slowly kills the slime. Pretty much the fastest way to kill a slime with this herb is from them to get and to adjust it for years each day. But basically it can be, if they strengthen it in like a whipping, like some sort of pheromone, or they make it stronger, it can slightly weaken a slime for about a couple of weeks or a couple of days. And Deku's been fighting Dobby for at least an hour now. And basically, Todoroki and the rest of the group pretty much have already gone to the building trying to look for them. They pretty much jump in right before Dobby was about to pretty much end Deku. And since this herb actually makes slimes solid, so slimes can actually be killed by normal means, like getting shot or being, stabbed. So basically, Dobby was about to snap Deku's neck when he heard knocking at the door, and the door was musted down by Todoroki. Todoroki sent a huge iceberg right towards Dobby, and Dobby dodged it, pretty much saying to Deku, or whispering to Deku before he left out the window and turned into a bat, pretty much saying to watch your back and I'll be back. Pretty much him flying off, and pretty much Kirishima, Bakugo, and everybody else tending to Deku. Deku pretty much coughing up blood, Deku being confused because Deku's never bled in his life, and slimes aren't supposed to. So basically, Deku goes back to the house with his rest of his friends, and they go inside. They are super confused at this, and basically Deku just gets told to calm down. Basically, Deku's being super confused on why he felt pain, or why he almost felt like he was about to die. Basically, Deku tells Rias this, and Rias has looked for a long time, so she knows most of the herbs and weaknesses supernaturals have. So he does tell her about an herb that can kill slimes, that turn them human for a short amount of time if the herb is strong enough, or you have enough of it. I guess Dobby's using his time wisely. Basically, Dobby at this point has a tendency plan to take down everybody, and this is what he's going to do. So basically, he's going to slightly take down each person in the group slowly, so he has only one person left, Kirishima. I don't understand why Dobby, and you probably don't understand, or why Dobby has such a big, hatred towards Kirishima. It's just that, well, Dobby just doesn't like Kirishima, and he doesn't like werewolves at all. So basically, Kirishima goes back to his house, locking up all his doors, and also having a wooden stake by his side all night. Him being incredibly scared. And also him still, getting ready to stab anybody that, isn't his friend that comes into his house. So basically, he is on edge. Now, the rest of the group are on edge as well, because pretty much Deku did tell him that he found a way to, injure me. So there's no telling what he has for the rest of you guys. Basically, they just go back home and we wait, and basically the next day of UA comes up. Now everybody goes back to UA, and basically everybody is told that they're doing the entrance exams or the combat training. So basically, they get the combat training, and basically All Might explains everything to everybody. So Deku's hero costume is kind of more skin and not really tactical, but more based off to flex or bend with Deku's slime body and strength and shape-shading abilities. Deku's suit looks kind of like this. You know what? Deku's hero costume is something like this, just without the mask. So basically, something like this, but instead of the spider symbol and the mask, it's no mask, and it's just a aqua circle replacing the spider logo. Now basically, guys, this is going to be Deku's hero costume. It's more of a morph suit, and it also is made of a material that merges with Deku's body when he transforms or shapeshifts. So Deku can shapeshift. I didn't explain this the last time. Deku can shapeshift into pretty much anything that he's seen or he's absorbed. Now basically Deku looks around everybody and they get ready. Deku gets teamed up with Ochaku still, and basically everybody else gets teamed up the same. Now everybody else's hero costume is still the same. Basically, Mo's hero costume actually being changed with the red in her outfit being replaced with a black, and her having a witch hat on. Just kidding, guys. Her hero costume's exactly the same. And basically, guys, let's get into it. Now, basically, Kirishima's hero costume is still the same, thing. It's just that, instead of Red Riot, it's, Wolf Riot. Basically, just a W, kind of like a spiky W instead of the red. Pretty much his, he still looks up to Red Riot, but he also looks up to, basically, but he still looks up to everybody else, or his werewolf brethren. And basically, we get switched to Deku pretty much going to inside the building with Ochaku to get ready to do the sparring. Now Deku is still teamed up with Ochaku against Bakugo and Ida. Now basically they get ready and everybody gets started. Deku is given the same type of instructions and stuff like that I normally give my what if Deku. Pretty much Deku telling Ochaku to keep, Ida at bay when I take down Bakugo because he's the strongest of the two. Now Deku runs off into the building, basically looking for Bakugo. He uses some of his sensing magic to see Bakugo through some of the walls, such as seeing his heat signature, him running up the stairs and finding Bakugo in a hallway. Bakugo looking around, saying, "This is it for you, huh?" Pretty much since Bakugo doesn't have explosion magic or anything like that, pretty much Bakugo does use explosion magic, but he more or less focuses on his vampire abilities. Now, basically, Bakugo's hair costume is changed a lot. Basically, it's the same hair costume in canon, but it's some changes to it. Basically, instead of gauntlets on his wrist, it's just his plain wrist, just sleeveless. It's just his plain arms, just sleeveless. And basically, him, instead of a King Explosion Murder or whatever a hero, pretty much, name he has, his name is... his hero name is actually Dracula. It's very not really original, but it's kind of like his lineage or something. So basically, Bakugo's hair costume is somewhat the same, but it's like a kind of like a Roman type like mini cape on his side that's ripped up and built like a Batman cape, just with holes in it and stuff like that. Basically, his hair costume is kind of like something like Barbarian Bakugo. Like this, exactly like this. This is Bakugo's hero costume now. It's exactly like this. Basically, just the things on his necklace being replaced with pretty much what was it? I think it was silver orbs, just to represent that he's better than werewolves and stuff like that. Basically, Bakugo gets started and says, "Let's see who wins." pretty much him charging towards Deku when he charges towards Bakugo. They charge and they pretty much meet up with each other. Basically, Bakugo trying to kick sorry. I can't even talk right now. Sorry, guys. Basically, Bakugo goes for a kick towards Deku, and Deku dodges it, grabbing Bakugo's leg, throwing him through a wall. Bakugo gets up, throwing some concrete or some rubble that was left when he was thrown through the wall, throwing it at Deku's face. Deku pretty much morphs through it or slimes through it, basically him dodging it, just by not even moving. Him jumping on top of Bakugo, pounding him through the floor and down to the second, pretty much level. Basically, Bakugo and Deku start just extremely just punching each other back and forth in the chest, face, and pretty much legs, shoulders, and stuff like that. Them throwing each other through walls and ceilings and stuff like that. Just them brutally just using their strength to take out each other. Now, Bakugo gets a little bit angry at this and throws a little bit of explosion magic towards Deku. Deku dodges it, grabbing Bakugo's hand and throwing him through one of the walls that he threw Bakugo in originally. Bakugo going through the same hole he went through when he was originally thrown through it. Him falling onto the ground, him grabbing a little piece of rubble, and throwing it back at Deku. Now pretty much Bakugo uses a little bit of his vampire strength to throw this a lot faster. Basically, Deku not being able to dodge it, his clothes getting caught up in the pretty much throw, him getting thrown into a wall. Now Bakugo gets up, running towards Deku at full speed, dropping Deku through a wall. Now Deku gets back up, not really feeling any pain, and throws more punches towards Bakugo. Bakugo throws one big explosion, burning Deku's suit. Deku jumps back and punching back and forth, just sort of punching Bakugo. Bakugo is more bloody now, basically him healing pretty quickly through each punch because he's a vampire. Basically him grabbing Deku one last time, saying, "This is all I got left." Pretty much throwing Deku through the whole entire building, all the way up to the bomb room. Pretty much Deku being stopped right when he gets thrown through the wall and gets pretty much stopped through one of the pillars that are on the ground. Him pretty much getting almost knocked out. Deku coming up, pretty much saying that felt very painful. Basically, Deku getting up, pretty much seeing his clothes are kind of ripped up, but they're healing because the material Deku made his suit out of is magically pretty much imprinted to heal. So basically, his suit starts healing, and he looks around, seeing Bakugo coming up and jumping through each hole that Deku was thrown it through when he was thrown through the whole building. Pretty much Bakugo jumping through most of the holes, but also starting to just fly in a swarm of bats up the hole right towards Deku. Deku punches his way up to the bomb room because he was stopped a room before the bomb room. Pretty much him jumping up right underneath Ida as Ida was running the bomb away from Ochaku. Pretty much Deku beating Bakugo and pretty much knocking out Ida as Ida, was sent flying up into the ceiling by Deku's jump. Basically, Deku jumping up into the air, trying to grab the bomb. Bakugo using his last bit of, magic or vampire powers to basically transform back into human, jumping on top of Deku and pretty much throwing him down to the ground. And Deku, seeing Bakugo grab the bomb and about to run off. But Deku uses a little bit of his strength to grab one of the pillars out of the foundation and throw it straight towards pretty much Bakugo. Pretty much sending Bakugo flying through a couple other walls and a couple other buildings in the fake city. Like, literally throws him out of the whole entire building into another fake city building, knocking out Bakugo. Deku and Ochaku win by default because, both of them are knocked out. And they get crowned the MVP. But basically, pretty much All Might doesn't really see this as a good win because they made a lot of destruction with their fight and they're taken out. And plus, the fight was stressed out for a really long time. And it's not supposed to be that because it's supposed to be the least casualties. And so much rubble they were throwing around when, they were throwing each other through buildings, walls, and that huge last throw Deku did, throwing Bakugo out of a whole entire building into another one. That would just cause a lot of civilians to get hurt and also other stuff. So basically, after that whole entire event of them fighting, basically Deku walks out, basically winning crown, not really the MVP, but winning nonetheless. Basically, All Might kind of scolding Deku because he made a lot more casualties or a lot more destruction than actual good. But basically, Deku says if a bomb went off, that would be more destruction than what we caused. Pretty much, Deku just saying that you at least gotta be happy that I actually took down the guy. Unlike you, pretty much Deku seeing through, All Might's strengthness, pretty much him sensing that All Might's hurt. Him pretty much walking off, bumping into All Might, sitting All Might a little bit, knocking All Might off of his balance. Now, All Might gets kind of angry by this, but still has a, smiling impression on his face. Now, Deku walks off, pretty much high-fiving Kirishima. Kirishima saying that was wicked, bro. Pretty much, Deku pretty much kind of being proud of himself because he did show a lot of strength. Now, basically, the rest of the students get called back home after all the rest of their, training goes kind of the same. Yeah, exactly the same, actually. The rest of them get the same results and everything. If Kirishima's team didn't win before, they do now. Basically, Deku's still being in his hero costume, goes back home. Pretty much his hero costume morphing into his body, and his normal clothes just popping out with him just wearing a gray hoodie and ripped up jeans and blue versions of his red shoes. So Deku goes back to pretty much the cabin, basically him meeting up with Rias. Now Rias didn't actually participate in the combat training because it wasn't enough people to do a combat training, and people didn't want to add Rias on a team and pretty much be 3 against 2. She didn't want to do that. So basically Rias was just given a pass. So basically Deku went back home after Rias saying that you did a pretty good job. Pretty much hugging Deku, saying that you really showed that Bakugo kid who's lost. Now Deku, flashing back, pretty much seeing how much strength he put on, him literally chucking a whole entire pillar at Bakugo's face, sending Bakugo through a whole entire building into another one. And that's a lot of strength. So basically Deku just sits down on the couch, pretty much going on TV, but hearing a noise in the backyard of the cabin. Deku opens the backyard of the cabin, looking around, and hears a howling. Deku looks up, and Deku forgot tonight was a full moon. Deku starts looking around, and he hears another noise, and he looks behind himself, and he sees a werewolf. A ginormous werewolf. And it pretty much goes for a huge scratch towards Deku. Deku dodges it, pretty much punching the werewolf and finishing it off. Rias sees this out of the building and starts shooting fire at the werewolf. The werewolf gets scared and starts running off. Basically, Rias runs down, pretty much saying, "What was that?" Now, Deku says it was a werewolf, and I should have known because I forgot it was a full moon. But why is it even out? Because, it's everybody's supposed to be shut down or locked up under a full moon. It's law for werewolves. Pretty much, Deku was kind of confused, but he does remember that, the first werewolf he ever seen was Kirishima. So basically, he goes to Kirishima's house, opening the door, seeing that everybody was locked up, seeing it was 4 werewolves in the basement, and basically the 4 werewolves were Kirishima's mom and dad, and Kirishima's cousin. For some reason, that was visiting that night. So basically, Deku looks around, seeing that it's not Kirishima. Basically, him just going back upstairs and walking out the house, looking around, seeing, pretty much wondering himself what was that werewolf. But basically, Ria's behind Deku, pretty much saying, let's just go back home, and, we don't know if any other werewolves are out. Pretty much, Deku says, I could take down a couple other werewolves. Pretty much, Deku hearing howling. They get into the car and they drive back, but they get stopped by a huge wolf-like creature about the size of about the size of Hulk. Like, this werewolf was huge. It pretty much flipped over the car just by stopping in front of the car, not even moving. The car smashed into the wolf, the wolf being like a juggernaut of some sorts, being an unstoppable force, an unmovable force. Deku gets out of the car, slamming out of the car, and Rias just burns a hole through the car, getting out of it. Rias transforms into a demon state, looking towards the pretty much creature, or the werewolf being huge. The werewolf looks at them saying, "Let's do this." Not really saying that, but just growling that in werewolf language. Pretty much jumping towards them, and Chichops knocked Deku through about 30 trees into the forest, like super deep into the forest, just by one, like, pimp slap towards Deku. Now, Deku is sent flying through the forest and looks up, looking around, hearing more howling. And he looks around, he sees at least like 50 or 60 wolves around him, just surrounding him, slowly gaining in on him. Now, Deku is kind of scared at this point, because Deku, hasn't seen these many werewolves in pretty much ever. But Deku looks around and he sees they instantly just start running towards him, not even slowly, pretty much gaining on him, just straight up just running towards him at full speed. Now Deku punches some of them off, but he eventually gets overhandled or over pretty much whelmed, starting to get bitten on. Now Deku pretty much starts phasing or like sliming out of their way. Deku pretty much sliming out of their way, seeing that his clothes have been ripped off. But Deku pretty much morphs into his hero costume. And runs off. Deku jumps through tree to tree on top of one big oak tree on the tip of it, looking around, seeing that he's out tricked or pretty much lost the wolves. About a good majority of the wolves are just running to the forest, and Deku hides out on that tree that night. But he gets woken up about an hour after he's already fell asleep in the tree. He looks out and he sees that it's some sort of wolf, the giant wolf again, with Rias knocked out. I mean, like straight up sleep in the left hand of the wolf. The wolf throwing Rias into another oak tree besides Deku. Pretty much Rias being knocked out, and pretty much Deku going back into slime form. Him pretty much sliming into the creeps and crevices and the pretty much vines into the tree. Him hiding in the tree. Now basically, the wolf still smells Deku in the tree and starts pretty much pounding the tree down with one strike of his hands, clipping the tree down and making it fall straight down. Eventually, it falls down, and Deku looks around, still being in slime form, merging with the tree. Pretty much the wolf not being able to find Deku. The wolf starts pounding the tree, trying to destroy it all, trying to see where Deku is. Now, the last second before before the wolf started destroying the tree, Deku merged within the water of the ground of the forest. Pretty much him slowly using a little bit of water to drag Rias away, trying to get him and Rias out of there. The wolf sees Rias getting dragged away from some sort of force. Pretty much the wolf grabbing Rias and pinning him up into the ground. Pretty much Deku going back into the soil and looking around through pretty much water droplets that are on the floor. Basically, the wolf starts looking around, seeing pretty much growling, and him about to bite into Rias, trying to get Deku's attention and trying to make Deku show his true form. Deku morphs back into his human state or his physical state in his hero costume. Pretty much him running towards the wolf, and the wolf grabbing Deku by the chest. Deku saying, "I'm going to end you." Pretty much him going into the wolf's pretty much pores of his body in his slime state. Pretty much the wolf starts yelling out in pain. Pretty much, slime doesn't really mix with blood. Basically, pretty much Deku going into the wolf's blood system, and Deku about to straight up just Ant-Man this man's, like Thanos and Ant-Man, that theory. In 2019, pretty much Deku about to, Ant-Man enlarge into the wolf, like Thanos, like the Ant-Man Thanos theory. But basically, Deku eventually actually gets grabbed out of the wolf's body. After the wolf does is a huge risk. Pretty much the wolf pretty much pounding its hand into his chest, grabbing Deku's slime body and throwing it out. Deku pops back into his human state, seeing that his hero costume isn't dirty or anything, but his hair is red now because, his slime has been covered in blood. Now, basically, Deku looks at the wolf. Pretty much the blood in Deku's hair is starting to come out slowly, and Deku looking towards the wolf, saying, "I'm not gonna let you get away with this." Pretty much, Deku yelling at the wolf, saying, "Why are you doing this? Why are you hurting Marias? And why are you even after us in the first place?" Pretty much, the wolf yells at Deku, and slowly makes out a one, and I mean just one sentence, saying that he sent me here to end you. You're too powerful to live in this world. Pretty much, Deku says, "What do you mean too powerful? I'm just an old ancient slime. I'm not that powerful." Pretty much, the wolf saying one more time, saying that you're too powerful for this world, and he knows it, but you don't. You have the power to literally change everything. Pretty much, Deku's confused, but he hears a huge noise behind him, and he hears a gunshot, and he looks down, and he doesn't really think of anything because he can't really get shot, but he sees blood and a hole in his stomach. Deku falls onto the ground, feeling weak, and passes out. The wolf grabs Deku's body and drags it off, and we leave it off here, guys. So basically, guys, I'm gonna leave it off here, guys. I was really gonna make this at least a 1 hour long, but I have to get to recording and editing the Lycan or what if Deku was Lycan video, and also getting the results on if Deku should be born a Lycan or turned a Lycan. Now, a lot of people say born already since this video has been recording. So yeah, so guys, I'm gonna leave it off here. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. As always, guys, have a blessed day. And as always, guys, I love to see and I want to hear your pretty much thoughts of this video. If you think it's good, just comment down below or give it a like. So see you guys later. Bye. Jesus, and as always, guys, have a blessed day.